the Come On In Sports Network.
Hello and welcome everyone to Table for 32. Come on in sports version of our NFL weekly power rankings. We got our week 7 power rankings incoming. Anybody new to us? You know how we do things here. We don't do it normally. We have to add a little spice, a little juice. We do it like a table for 32, like you sit people at a family gathering, a family wedding, and then you have to figure out where everybody sits. Some people get set at the kiddie table or far away from the head of the table. That's the same thing with our NFL power rankings. It's kind of what the mind behind it was just kind of making it like that. Some teams at the kiddie table don't get talked about much, and they don't get the graphics that we have on here or anything like that. So I added a little juice about that here. And as always, your comments are welcome. You throw your comments in the chat. You disagree with us. You think your team should be ranked higher, maybe lower. You're one of those pessimistic type of fans. Awesome. Let it be known in the chat. If also as well, drop us a follow, like, and all our socials. So welcome in, everybody. Come on in to our Week 7 NFL Power Rankings. Without further ado, let me bring it up here. We start off with the 32nd ranked team in our Power Rankings for the week. We have the New York Jets, 0-5. I don't think it's any surprise they're here. They played really well week 1, and then since then have just went into the tank. Aaron Glenn, I think, realizes it's not so as easy to turn around a franchise as you think. The Jets just perpetually seem to have these issues, and they're playing kind of like what Aaron Glenn said wasn't going to happen. They're playing undisciplined. Justin Fields is kind of showing who he is as a quarterback, which isn't much. They hitched their wagon to him. I don't think it gets talked about enough that Sauce Gardner, since his rookie year, I just haven't seen the development out of him. He's very handsy, and he gets flagged for it now. And the other week he talked about, how they're just out to get him. I don't think so, Sauce. So the Jets definitely need to see improvement out of him, but they need to figure out the quarterback situation. They just are getting worse as the season goes on. They're in line to get the number 1 pick in the draft, so we'll see what happens with the Jets. But 32 overall at our kid table. This is the smallest kid table we have, the last 4 teams in the NFL. But the Titans got off the bottom of it, so good for them. But they're still at this table. Coming at number 31, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. By far the most wins towards this end of our power rankings. They're 2-3, but as everybody knows, those 2 wins came with Joe Burrow starting, although Browning played most of that second win. But Jake Browning has been very disappointing coming in off the bench for Joe Burrow. Like I, for one, was looking back to a few years ago and went 4-3. The offense didn't lose that much when he came in statistically. And I figured, all right, he'll hold him up, maybe 500, maybe game above like he'd shown before. But it hasn't been anywhere near that. He's played really bad football. And to the point where the Bengals made a move this week, right? They traded for Joe Flacco from the Browns. And I don't know how much that's going to be a saving grace for them. Joe Flacco's a statue. Their biggest problem is they can't block. Maybe Flacco's able to get it out quicker to the weapons they have. I imagine that's the Cincinnati Bengals, what they're hoping for, but not looking great for the Bengals moving forward. They bench Browning, put in Flacco. It's desperation all over in Cincinnati. Tennessee's Titans come in at number 30. They had been number 32 for our last few weeks here on Come On In Sports Table for 32. But hey, they got out their schneid this week. They got a win in probably one of the most unique ways you can, the way they beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals obviously fumbling the ball, going in for a touchdown to go up 28-7. They fumble that. Titans go down to score. Towards the end of the game, Ward throws a pick. in the red zone, but the Cardinals defender fumbles it into the end zone. The Titans recover for a touchdown. Just so many kind of fluky type things that, hey, good for the Titans. Like, yeah, the flukes happen, but they didn't make the fluky play for once. And it seems to kind of be falling apart for the Cardinals now. They're Gannon getting fined for yelling at the running back on the field. So, but congrats to Cam Ward getting his first win. Every week he shows flashes of what he can be, but it's very clear that the team around him is nowhere, especially offensively. Defense has actually been playing all right, but he needs a lot more help on offense. He needs more weapons. I know. And then the offensive line, they put a lot in the offensive line, just hasn't produced. But they got off their schneid. No more O for. The Jets are the last O for in the NFL. And really on the last O for either the win or loss. Closing out our worst kitty table, the bottom four teams, they're so far away from the head of the table, they can't even shout and get heard. We got the Miami Dolphins, 1-4. And I don't know about anybody else, but when I heard McDaniels talk the day after at the Monday presser, like he just sounded like a defeated person. Like I was trying to listen to it, and like he was just all over the place, like he's kind of rambling on. To me, it's like he sees the writing on the wall, which, I mean, he seems like he's a smart guy. He probably does. But just the way they lost to the Panthers on Sunday, like they had that 17-point lead, and then, I mean, the Panthers had just gotten the snot beat out of them by the Patriots the week before. You figure out the Panthers are going to fold. Maybe the Dolphins thought that. When they got up 17, they might have been like, hey, we got this. We're up 17. The Panthers are going to just fold, and they didn't. Credit to the Panthers for continuing to fight. They didn't give up. Came back and won, and they're 2-3 now. Dolphins 1-4, staring a lost season in the face. And really, I have a few friends who are Dolphins fans, and they're all on the board of let's just reset this thing. It's not going anywhere. They tried to run it back again this year, much to the chagrin of those same fans. But I think it's pretty clear that it's got to change, and I think Tua needs to be included in that change. I think he was a perfect fit for what McDaniels wanted to run, but I'm not so sure that he can run a lot of other offenses. So, Dolphins coming in at number 29. I imagine change is incoming for that. All right, moving on to the next kitty section. We got numbers 28 through 23. The Las Vegas Raiders coming in at 1-4, number 28 in our rankings. It's been a long, it probably seems like an eon ago that they had that opening week win against the Patriots. Just look how those two teams have kind of veered in opposite directions. You have the Raiders who beat them, and then, oh man, the Raiders, the Pete Carroll, he's got them going. They're ready to roll. They've lost 4 straight since. And the Patriots, who we'll talk about later, are now 3-2 and beat one of the Super Bowl favorites in the AFC, the Buffalo Bills. So the Raiders have just imploded, and I think a lot of it is due to their quarterback, Geno Smith. I mean, I know it has a lot to do with Geno Smith. The defense has played well, and they're getting production from a bunch of different receivers on offense, and that's even with Bowers having his knee injury. But Geno Smith is turning the ball over at an extreme rate. And every quarterback will have a game like where they have a couple. It's more than a game. It's more than a couple. Geno, at this point in his career, should not be making the mistakes he's making. And I just can't imagine Pete Carroll is going to keep rolling him out there if that's how he continues to play. Losing and that without turning the ball over is one thing, but losing it because of the turnovers, because of your quarterback, doesn't seem like something Carroll's going to be sitting well with. So I think Geno's really got to turn it around, or he's going to find himself on the bench really quick. Coming at 27, we have the New York Giants 1-4. They had that win against the Chargers 2 weeks ago, and then crashed back down against the Saints. Credit to the Saints for getting their first win as well. But the Giants, 5 straight possessions, they had a turnover. That's just insane. And some of them are just, how do they turn it over? Like when Dart was running with the ball and it just falls out of his hands. And I heard on the radio earlier this week, just the beginning of this year, the ball security just in general in the NFL just seems awful. Like people, it's almost like they've adopted the strikeout mindset in MLB. They're like, oh, we turned the ball over. Like it used to be like strikeouts used to be awful in baseball, and now it's just an accepted part. And I know it's not going to become like that in the NFL with turnovers, but it just reminds me of that in terms of like there's so many fumbles, so many just ball security issues all around the league, and the Giants just had just rash of them like 5 drives in a row, turnover. It's just crazy. So we'll see how they rebound from that after the big win over the Chargers. Jackson Dart continued, just like Cam Ward, continues to have those plays like, all right, we see what he's got. We see what the future's like. But is Daboll going to be in that future with him moving forward? Probably a big surprise if you're talking like a month ago, if we had said, all right, the Baltimore Ravens are going to be 26 in the Week 7 NFL Power Rankings, we probably would have been called crazy. But a lot happens in a month. The Ravens are 1-4. Their only win was against the Browns. The injuries have caught up with the Ravens big time. I mean, this past week against the Texans, they had like a Pro Bowl lineup almost of an All-Pro even of players not playing against the Texans. And the Texans took advantage big time with a beatdown of the Ravens, as they should with what they were doing roster-wise. But don't let that fool you. Like, even before all these injuries started piling up, the Ravens were showing some kinks in the armor that they didn't look like the Ravens. Like that first 3 quarters of their Week 1 game against Buffalo, like right, that's the Ravens people were thinking. Like they're going to be boat racing people, and then that they allow the Bills to come back, they allow the Lions to do what they did, right? And it just started going downhill. And then they lose to the Chiefs pretty handily. And they lost again pretty handily this week without Lamar Jackson, too. So they're sitting at 1-4 now, which is hard to believe. Now, they have a schedule, and if they can get healthy, it'd be really unwise to write them off. But as it sits right now, it's really hard to put them any higher just because of who they actually have that can actually play the game health-wise. So as for right now, they sit at 26. As they get healthy and their schedule kind of gets a little softer, I imagine they're going to be climbing back up and they'll be climbing up our rankings. But it's a snapshot right now heading into Week 6. So this is what we got. Coming in at number 25, as Dolph promised last week, the New Orleans Saints got off the bottom of our rankings and moved up almost an entire page. They are now 25th in our Come On In Sports table for 32 power rankings. And honestly, they could be higher. Aside from one game against the Seahawks, which they just had so many mistakes, special teams, and all over the place. The Saints have played every single opponent tough and had chances. So it's good to see for them, good to see for Kellen Moore, good to see for Spencer Rattler that they got their first wins. It came against the Giants, and like they're there every week. So they're building something there, and like hopefully they can sustain that and keep going with it. But don't write the Saints off like they're not going to be an easy out for anybody. Their defense is playing well. Spencer Rattler the last few weeks has played pretty good football. Ignore the record. He's just playing better than his record shows. So the Saints get their first win, move up to 25 in our weekly power rankings here at Come On In Sports. Coming in at 24, we have the Arizona Cardinals, if I can say that. There we go. 2-3, and they're kind of heading the opposite way of the Saints. They won their first 2 games, but the last 3 had just been trending downward, and it doesn't get much worse than their loss this past week. You saw Gannon blowing up on the sideline. The running back fumbles it. I don't know how, after last week with Adonai Mitchell, right before the goal line, that pretty much would have put the game away, would have put them up with 3 touchdowns. Instead, the Titans get it, drive down, they score, they get that touchdown off the interception the Cardinals should have had. It was just an awful way to lose. And to me, that's the type of game with that franchise that kind of is used to like waiting for the other shoe to drop that can turn their season in the negative direction. Like, oh man, here we go again. They could be easily 3-2. They just hold on to the ball. Even after that drop going into the end zone, like we just dropped it, hold on to the interception. Don't fumble it in the end zone and give the Titans a touchdown off it. So if the Cardinals don't get a win here, I really think like their season can spiral out of control quickly and probably result in a regime change in the desert. Coming in at 23, they got their second win, a comeback win over the Dolphins. And just like the Cardinals' loss can be a catalyst, I think the Panthers' win can be a catalyst. Coming off a blowout loss to the Patriots, they were down 17-0. Easily could have been like, it's human nature. All right, man, here we go again. It's just 2 weeks in a row we're getting boat raced. Nope, they kept fighting. They battled back. They won the game. They're 2-3. A lot of teams are in that way. Like, I mean, they're better. Look at the teams they're better than record-wise. So the Panthers are there. Now, it obviously could go the other way. There could be no spark. But I think there is. There's enough. The defense has shown enough improvement this year. You've seen it. I think I've seen enough from Bryce Young to know that he's not an upper echelon quarterback, but he can be one of those wild card quarterbacks. So they just, like a lot of teams just need that spark, that play, that moment to get them going. And maybe this Dolphins comeback is their moment. Moving on to our last set of kitty tables, getting into the final bottom half of it. We got the Cleveland Browns at 22, 1-4, but they're another one of those teams that their record doesn't show the type of play they put onto the field. Their defense, as everyone probably predicted, did predict, like they are top notch. Their defense is not to be messed with. It keeps them in games. And this past week, I think I don't know how they lost. Like Dylan Gabriel in the offense, Judkins had over 100. Gabriel played mistake-free football pretty much. The defense played strong. Like they played well enough to win. And I think it's smart that they moved off of Flacco and moved him completely, trading him to the Bengals. And making the future is now. Gabriel's going to get his chance. And imagine if he doesn't put up like wins, or maybe even if he does, the Browns might be like, all right, we got to kind of look at next year. We got to see what Sanders is too. They might want to see what both of them are because they will be right up there in terms of being able to draft a quarterback. But they are near the top 20 because they are better than the record says. Their defense is strong. Judkins is showing like, man, you remember what Chubb was for them. Judkins is kind of showing that. And that takes so much pressure off the young quarterbacks if they're able to make that running game be potent, be efficient, be something other defenses have to worry about. And when the Browns were successful under Stefanski is when Chubb was at his best, at the peak of his powers. So the Browns, I think, are just like I mentioned the Panthers and the Saints. The Browns aren't going to be an easy beat for people, and I think they'll spoil a season or two down the road. I mean, I'm a Bills fan, and I'm already like, ugh, that could be a rough game when we play them later on. The Chicago Bears, 2-2, 500, coming off their bye. Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. The last few games seem like they're clicking, like they're moving them in the right direction. And they have a big rematch this Monday night in the second of the Monday night doubleheader. If everyone remembers last year, they played the Commanders this week on Monday Night Football. What happened last year when they played the Commanders? It was that infamous Hail Mary game where Stevenson was jawing with one of the fans when the play was happening, got there late. The Commanders scored that Hail Mary touchdown. And look how those two teams diverged after that. The Bears kind of went and fell backwards. The Commanders made a run to the NFC Championship game. So I know it's Ben Johnson wasn't there last year, but a lot of the Bears players were. And you got to imagine Johnson's going to use that to be like, hey, this is your chance to turn the season in the right direction this time. We should have beaten them last year if we can defend a Hail Mary. This puts us over 500 in the middle of October. There's lots of selling points here for Ben Johnson and the Bears. And also, it puts them right there in the wild card. The Commanders are right there. They're 3-2. The Bears win this. They're above them in the wild card rankings. So it's a big game for Chicago, big game for Caleb Williams, big game for Ben Johnson. So that second game in the Monday night doubleheader this week, very intriguing, even though the records aren't great for either team. Very intriguing matchup. Closing out the top 20, we have the Houston Texans 2-3. They've won 2 in a row. Good for them. Dig a little deeper, look at who they beat. They beat the Titans. They beat the injury-ravaged Ravens. So you can't help who's on your schedule. They beat the two teams there, good for them. A lot of teams lose the teams they shouldn't lose to. The Texans didn't. They handled their business. But at the same time, I'm not completely ready to put them back into the adult table version of our power rankings. They're 2-3. Their offensive line is still a mess. I think when they play decent defenses, you will see that. And I still haven't seen C.J. Stroud completely rebound from the last year and a half slump he's been in. So the Texans, great for them. They won 2 in a row. That's all they can do. But I got to see them beat some actual teams. They got to bye this week, so they won't get a chance to actually do that till the following week. Coming in at number 19, we have the Atlanta Falcons, also coming off their bye last week, 2-2. They will play the Buffalo Bills this Monday night in the first game of the doubleheader. And when I first looked at this game, I'm obviously Bills fan, but this is another week where a young up-and-coming team with a young quarterback is going to want to send a message to the rest of the league on a national stage against the Bills. The Bills are got to get used to getting everyone's best shot, and the Falcons will give it. What did the Bills not do well? Play run defense. What did the Falcons do well? Run the ball. So if you were like one of those DraftKings daily fantasies, or maybe you're looking to make a move in a traditional fantasy, I'd be looking for Bijan Robinson to be picked up. And I would put him in. He's going to be getting lots of yards this week. So the Falcons have their chance to make a statement game on national stage when they face the Bills, get above 500, be right there with the Bucs in the NFC South. Kansas City Chiefs fans, hide your eyes, avert your eyes. The Chiefs are no longer in the adult table section of the power rankings. Now, I did have them a little bit higher than Dolph did when he did the rankings for him. Just see what Dolph actually put there for him. Find it. There we go. Dolph had the Chiefs ranked 21st. So that I had them a little bit higher, but because the way we do it here, we find the average. The Chiefs are at 18. So they're not they don't get the good graphic. They don't get the helmet. But it's hard for me to I didn't put them here because I'm starting to see the Chiefs of old. Yes, they lost again to Jaguars, but that's an aberration. They don't lose games like that. I don't remember exactly what their record was. They'd won so many games in a row when they were up 14 at any point. So this isn't like a traditional game. If this starts happening, then yeah, I'd be worried. But it was bound to happen, just like the Bills' home winning streak ended at 20. Like, streaks end. That streak of not losing with having a lead like that, it ended. Took a 99-yard pick six, and Trevor Lawrence falling down, getting up and running for a touchdown. It happened. But the Chiefs' offense is starting to, I think, look potent and dangerous. They got Thornton. They got Rice coming back. They have Worthy, Juju. Now, that rookie running back, his name escapes. I think his last name is Smith, whereas Sky Moore's old number, 24. He's looking like a shot in the arm for the running game coming out of the backfield. So, yes, the Chiefs are 2-3. I'm happy they lost, obviously. But they're starting to hum. It's a big game this week for them against the Lions. Falling to 2-4 will be a different story. Like 2-4 is not going to be good, but I easily can see them getting back to 500 by beating the Lions. So, big game this week for them. Closing out the bottom portion of our power rankings, we got the Minnesota Vikings coming in number 17. They are 3-2. Hey, they split both their games overseas. But the question is, like, when McCarthy's healthy, are they going back to him? Are they going to let Carson Wentz continue to roll out there? That's the question for me, is like, what's going to happen at the quarterback position? Wentz has played pretty well. I think they remember last year what happened with Sam Darnold. And the first few weeks of the year, aside from that one fourth quarter spurt in week 1 against the Bears, McCarthy has looked overmatched. And his first few games, that's what happens. Nothing against him, but are the Vikings, is their mindset right? We're going to develop him no matter what? Or are they still like, all right, he can develop behind the scenes as we throw Wentz out there and try to make something of this year. So that's the tightrope they have to walk. But now we're on to the good stuff, everybody. The top 16 teams, so they're at the adult table. That's why you only see 4 people per table. They get graphics. They get more information. They get the good stuff here at Come On In Sports with their Table for 32 weekly NFL power rankings. Coming in at 16, barely hanging on, we got the Los Angeles Chargers 3-2. They lost to the Commanders 27-10, and they were up 10-0, so they got outscored 27-0 the rest of the way. Those first 3 wins seem like a long time ago now, with consecutive losses to the Giants and now the Commanders last week. This is a great get-right game for them this coming week at Miami. Miami's reeling. A loss here will put a big damper on what the Chargers are hoping to be this year. The Dolphins just lost to the Panthers. They won 1 game. And that's again, they lost Tyreek in. So the Chargers, they had the 2 offensive tackle injuries, brutal for them. Marion Hampton out for a month now. But they still have 2 men, Khalil Mack also out. They traded for Odafe Owe from the Ravens. But they have too much to be 3-2 to lose the games like they had the last few weeks. And Justin Herbert, everyone was ready, myself included, man, that first 3 weeks. But he's kind of, to me, shown why he's never put in that upper echelon these last 2 weeks. Every quarterback has a clunker. I get it. But this 2 in a row to the Giants and Commanders. And they didn't even really put much of a fight this week against the Commanders. That's the problem with the Chargers. That's why there's the phrase, all right, they Chargers it. Right? It becomes a verb. It's like an active, right? Yeah, the Chargers going to Charger. Coming at 15, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers coming off their bye week last week. They're sitting at 3-1, and my goodness, what a productive bye week. First of all, every team in their division lost again, so their lead, while not playing, actually grew in their division. And at the same time, their injuries are starting to become healthy. Joey Porter's probably coming back this week. Jalen Ramsey possibly. So they got healthy over their bye. Everyone always talks about the early bye week maybe being a problem. But hey, if you're injured, that early bye week is really helpful because you get a week to get them back and ready to roll. But the Steelers are sitting in the driver's seat. The Ravens injury sitting at 1-4. The Browns sitting at 1-4, just trading Flacco away, going with the young guys. And the Bengals trading for Flacco. This division is there for the taking for the Steelers. If they just don't, shoot themselves in the foot the rest of the season, they'll be there with the division ready in hand at the end of the year. And as much as I hate on the Rodgers signing, I'm starting to see the vision there. The offense was getting the big plays. The defense is finally, after the rough first few weeks, is stepping up and playing like everyone thought they should, and the amount of money and resources they put in it, they should. So the Steelers at 15. The Dallas Cowboys 3-2 beat the New York Jets 37-22. That score wasn't even nearly indicative of how that game went. The kind of Jets put stuff on it at the end to make it look a lot closer than it really was. Dak Prescott, has he ever played better than he has this year? And he has to, the way the defense plays. Their defense is not good at all, but Dak is playing at an extremely high level, and that's been out without CeeDee Lamb the last few weeks. The Bills always had that mantra of everyone eats. Well, Dak is doing that. He's just finding whoever's open, doesn't care who it is. He's getting them the ball. They're making productive plays. Javonte Williams having a resurgence for Dallas. I called that, if you remember, week 1. We're talking about the X factors going into that Thursday night game against the Eagles. I said, hey, if Javonte Williams can play like he did his rookie year in Denver, Dallas might have something in the through the first 5 weeks. They've shown he has something. So the Cowboys play at Carolina. Again, not to be trifled with. Carolina has shown some fight and some grit the last few weeks. But the Cowboys came in at number 14 in our power rankings for the week. Coming in at 13, we had the Washington Commanders 3-2. They beat the Chargers 27-10. They faced Chicago in the second of the doubleheader on Monday Night Football this week. And how glad was Washington to get Jaden Daniels back? They had weathered the storm with Mariota, but it's not the same as having your franchise guy back there. And he came back and handled it this week. Struggled early, but I mean, little rust for him. And they scored 27 unanswered to beat the Chargers pretty handily. Now, can the rest of the team get healthy? The rest of the team show up and play? That's the question. But as right now, we have two NFC East teams sitting at 14 and 13, respectively, in our rankings, and there's more to come out of the NFC East. Moving on to the next adult table, we have numbers 12 through 9. Coming in at number 12, we have the Seattle Seahawks 3-2. A exciting, fun to watch loss they had to the Bucs last week, 38-35. They play at the Jaguars this week, who are coming off their high and their euphoria over their win over the Chiefs on Monday night. First of all, got to talk about the uniforms. That Seahawks-Buccaneers matchup, both of their throwbacks, oh, chef's kiss to that. You see, you'll see in a few slides when I show the Bucs. I love the creamsicle uniforms. That's why I have the Bucs helmet in our graphics every week. Is that instead of the one they use now? But man, Seattle, both of their losses, man, they're just tough home losses too. Like I remember when Seattle had that distinct home field advantage. Like you didn't go into Seattle and beat them. But their two losses are both at home this year. The lost week one to the Niners in a tight one. They lost this one here. And aside from that last throw, the last pick Darnold threw, he played as well as he could. And I mean, they played, I think, one of the better teams, if not the best team in the NFC, nose to nose. They traded punches. I think they scored 5 straight touchdowns between the two teams. So really fun to watch. Seahawks at number 12. Sam Darnold is showing last year was not a fluke. He's showing what he can be. And then JSN showing he's the number 1 receiver after they traded DK Metcalf. Coming in at number 11, we had the New England Patriots fresh off their big-time win over the Bills on Sunday Night Football. Drake May, Stephon Diggs had themselves quite the game. And everyone is all over them saying, hey, man, this was the Patriots coming out party. And maybe it was. Drake May played fantastic. Like he was rolling, making plays. But against better defenses, Bills don't have a good defense. Go look it up statistically. They're like they're the bottom 3 and 4 in a lot of major statistical categories. They're not going to get what they got against the Bills. And the Bills turned the ball over 3 times, had 11, 12 penalties. But props to Drake May, Stephon Diggs, he wanted that. So is this different than a few years ago? Remember, because when Mac Jones came in and beat the Bills in that win game, everyone was crowning the Patriots. Here they are. They don't need Brady. They're still the Patriots. And then we know how that one ended. So is this going to be different? I think it will be different. Mike Vrabel is a different coach. You think of those Tennessee Titans teams he always had. They were always ready and rearing to go. They weren't going to kill themselves. And I don't think this team will. So the Patriots at number 11, inching closer to the top 10. Maybe they make it this week. They play at the Saints, who we already mentioned. Hey, not going to be an easy one. But if the Patriots are the ascending team they should handle their business, even on the road. Getting into our top 10, we have the Green Bay Packers coming off a bye week. That loss, yes, it was a loss. We need like that to the Cowboys the previous week to tie, really, but a loss in all sense and purposes. They get to face the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Flacco. Green Bay needs to get this win. They lost to the Browns. They tied the Cowboys. They can't go in and lose to Cincinnati at home. I don't care if it's Joe Flacco. I don't care who's behind center for the Bengals. This has got to be a win and a statement win. The Bengals are reeling. They have not played good football in 3 weeks. You're coming off a bye. This has to be a statement game for the Packers. This has to be I guess, beatdown is what it's got to be. If they win by the skin of their teeth, that's not a good sign for them. The Bengals offense has been dominated last few weeks, and they made the trade for Micah Parsons to be that guy to dominate the other team. So very important game for the Packers. They need to handle their business against the Bengals in week 6. Coming in at number 9, we had the Denver Broncos. They did handle their business last week. Came back to beat the Eagles on the road. A big win for them. This week, I imagine they're already over there. They're facing the Jets in London this week. Early in the year, the Broncos lost a couple of tough heartbreakers at the end. But they finally broke somebody else's heart. They came back to beat the Eagles at the end. And props to them. A lot of teams they can't stand up and to and with the Eagles just because like their mindset and who the Eagles are, but the Broncos are right there, and their defense showed they are legit. They got more sacks. They're leading the league in sacks. And then Bo Nix is starting, just like last year, he started slow. He started slow this year, but he's starting to get it turned around. So the Broncos are there. And I mean, with the Chargers implosion the last few weeks, they're now the highest ranked team from that division. Watch out for Denver. We're getting close, folks. We're into the top 5, 6, 7, and 8 now. Coming in at number 8 in our Come On In Sports Table for 32 NFL Power Rankings, we have the Los Angeles Rams. 3-2. I think a bad loss last week on Thursday Night Football to San Francisco. The Niners are so beat up, so injured. And they can't afford to have that type of game again this week. In week 6, they played, just like we already mentioned, the injury-ravaged Ravens. For the Rams, they already know we can't take it for granted we're going to win. They might have had that mindset against the Niners last week, and they lost to a team that is just ravaged by injury. The Rams need to do what the Texans did this week when they played the Ravens and put the beat down on them. They are much healthier. They got a better team at this point because of all of that. If they lose this one, I think everyone's view of the Rams is going to change a lot. I mean, you can't call it a must-win because they'll be 500, but it's close to one. Their losses, they blew the huge lead to the Eagles. They lost to a kind of like JV squad of the Niners, kind of. They can't afford to lose again this week to the Ravens. Now, if it was a healthy Ravens, different story. This is not a healthy Ravens team. Coming in at number 7, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, 4-1. We already talked about it a little bit, but they had their signature win over the Chiefs last week on Monday Night Football. They came back. They could have easily folded. The Chiefs are the Chiefs, but they battled back. Trevor Lawrence, props to him for keeping his composure, even though he said he panicked when he fell. Running in for that touchdown. That could be a seminal moment for him that's the turning point for him. I remember a long time ago when Rob Johnson was the Bills quarterback. He had an end-of-play game like where he dove over the pylon and to score a touchdown with to have the Bills beat the Chiefs on the road. People, oh, man, that's his. It didn't turn out to be the seminal moment for him. But Trevor Lawrence is young enough still where it could be. This could be the point where he turns around for him. The Jaguars' defense continues to produce turnovers at an insane pace, especially compared to last year when they had under 10 for the entire year. And that pick 6 by Devin Lloyd, my goodness. Anybody like Nick Wright, who a few weeks ago had the tackle that turned the tide when Mahomes made that tackle on the turnover. I didn't watch it this week, but I really hope somebody on that show showed Mahomes missing the tackle and saying the tackle that didn't turn the tide. If they didn't, that was a missed opportunity. Coming in at number 6, we have those San Francisco 49ers. What a win over the Rams. We just said it was a bad loss for the Rams. Fantastic win for the 49ers. They beat a division rival. They beat somebody, and the win put them at the top spot in their division. And their backup quarterback has won 3 games. They're eventually, hopefully, probably going to get healthy. And when that does happen, imagine how good they're going to be. And if they do get hurt again, all these guys have gotten the experience now where it's not the Rams, the 49ers will know what they have. because they played so much. And Shanahan, he's got to be the coach of the year. Like, him and Shane Steichen have got to be the two coaches of the years thus far. And I would say just with the injuries that they've dealt with in San Francisco, Shanahan should be the front runner for that award. Coming at number 5, though, we have the Indianapolis Colts, and they arguably could be higher. They had a beatdown of the Raiders 40-6 this past week. They play the Cardinals this week. Should be another one with a similar score, I think. The Colts are impressive every week. And I don't want to hear the people at this point who are saying, man, the Colts are going to fall back. No, the way the Colts are winning is something that is sustainable. They're running the ball well. Their quarterback's playing well, not making mistakes, doing what he needs to do to win, and the defense is playing like they should. The coach is not making decisions that cost their team. The Colts are winning in a way that can last. And Jonathan Taylor, my goodness, he's on like 2 games this year already with 3 touchdowns. He's like he's back to his old self again after the injury, which is kind of scary to think about because they actually have a competent quarterback now, good weapons. The Colts are going to be a dangerous team all year. Those of you who are just waiting for that other shoe to drop and for them to fall, you're going to be waiting a long time, I think. So the Colts come in at number 5 in our weekly power rankings, which brings us to the head of the table. We got the top 4 teams in the NFL according to Come On in Sports and our voters here at the network. Coming in at number 4, we have the Buffalo Bills coming off their first loss of the year on Sunday Night Football to the Patriots. They played the Falcons on Monday Night Football this week in the first game of the doubleheader. Last week's game, I'm a Bills fan, but I'm not one of those, everything's great. No, it wasn't. That was one of the worst offensive games the Bills have played in a long time with Josh Allen. 3 turnovers. Even Sean McDermott after the game calling them like, hey, we got a little bit too cute. Yeah, they did. Like on the first drive, the end around to Dawson Knox. How is that your play? How is an end around to Dawson Knox a good play call? Catch him off guard with something else. Not an end around to somebody. I don't think he's ever done a end around that I can recall. So the Bills got a game that they need to make a statement in this week when they play the Falcons on Monday Night Football on the road before their bye week in week 7. If good teams like the Bills, when they lose like they did against the Patriots, they should and often do rebound and put it on the next team. So as a Bills fan, I'm really hoping that's the response this week. If they let it snowball into another loss, that's sitting at 4-2 heading into the bye, not a great way to head into the bye. So the Bills need to win this one to get the back in the momentum the right way. But now I think we're getting to the 3 best teams in the league. And I would argue the Bucks are better than the Eagles, but like I said, this is cumulative. We take the votes of everybody at Come On in Sports and put it that way. So I'm true to them, even though I had the Bucks ranked higher than the Eagles. Overall, the Eagles were ranked higher in our rankings by our Come On in Sports Network contributors. So the Bucks come in at number 3 in this week's rankings. They're 4-1 coming off their win over the Seahawks last week. They faced the 49ers this week, who are number 6 in our rankings. The Buccaneers, just every single week, they're in it at the end. The one loss, they had a chance to win at the end. The 4 wins, they got the lead late. They're the cardiac kids this year. Every year, it seems like there's one team who just tries to do heart stuff to their fan base, and the Bucs are it this year. But talk about a great draft pick, Emeka Egbuka. Like, look at what he's done for that team. Mike Evans has been hurt a few weeks. Godwin wasn't there to start the year. No worries. Emeka Egbuka is there. Ohio State is wide receiver university. OHIO. But right along with Dak Prescott, you got to put Baker Mayfield up there for NFL MVP at this point in the year. And the Browns, my goodness, the Browns got to watch him as he continues to just put up stats and numbers and win, being like, Why did we let him go? For Deshaun Watson? What was wrong with us? Coming at number 2, we had the Philadelphia Eagles, who dropped their first contest of the year. We talked about it just shortly ago when they lost to the Broncos 21-7. They are the first game of Week 6 when they traveled to New Jersey to take on the New York Giants. Barkley's had a real rough of it this year. I don't know if it's the Eagles not putting as much on him this year, or is it just a natural result of everything he did last year? But the question for them is can he get back? The Eagles are struggling there because Saquon Barkley isn't playing like he did last year. He's playing not close to how he played last year, which I think is part of the frustration of their wide receivers. A.J. Brown, who does it publicly, I think Devontae Smith, I read, is more, he's not going to say it out loud, but he feels the same. I think last year they had to deal with it because of how good he was doing, but I get what A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are saying this year. They're saying, hey, we're not as good running the ball, so why aren't we opening up to us? We're arguably the top wide receiver duo in the league. That is a good question. And we'll see what they do this week when they face the Giants on Thursday Night Football. But closing out our Week 7 NFL Power Rankings, which we call Table for 32, they're at the head of the table. They have the carving knife. They are ready to cut and deliver for everyone else. We have the Detroit Lions sitting at 4-1. They beat the Bengals 37-24 last week. Another one of those, not as close as that score would indicate. And they traveled to Kansas City to face the Chiefs this week. There's not a team playing better across the board than the Lions are the last 4 weeks. After that opening loss to the Packers, they have just dominated teams. Even in their close win to the Ravens, they sacked Lamar Holt like a ton. They have been dominant. And this is the question heading the season was, were they going to miss Ben and Glenn? Well, Ben and Glenn who? These Lions seem like the same Lions we've seen the last few years. We're going to be a tough out for anybody. They're going to be one of the Super Bowl favorites betting-wise, and rightfully so. Goff is showing he's not a system guy. Dan Campbell's showing, hey, even without my coordinators, look how good we are. So that's going to be an exciting Sunday night game this week. The Chiefs, who are going to be desperate coming off a win, not wanting to fall at all to 2-4. And the Lions continuing wanting to show hey, we're still here, everybody. You can focus on the Bucs, the Eagles, all the other fancy teams. But remember, we're still here. So that is our show, everybody. Thank you for dropping in. As always, please don't be afraid to drop any comments during the show. Chat with us live. I'd love to get feedback, what y'all think. Do you disagree? Where do you disagree? Where do you see certain teams at? What is your reasoning for? Here at Come On In Sports, well, that's why we named ourselves Come On In. We want you to come in and be a part of it with your comments, with your feedback, all that good stuff. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us for our Week 7 NFL Power Rankings. I am Lawrence Foster for Come On In Sports. We tell you, come on in. Have a great one, everybody.
The Come On In Sports Network.